Hello, welcome to the Courageous Self-Care podcast. I'm your host, Christina Marlette. On this show, we talk about self-care that moves the needle. It is self-care that gives you more energy, it improves your relationships, it gives you more health and vitality. Really, it just gives you a better life. It's completely transformational. Does this all come for free? I'm sorry to tell you that it does not. That is where the courage comes in. Because in exchange for that freedom and vitality and energy and joy, you're going to need to get uncomfortable. That is where real self-care happens. And so I like to say it is self-care that goes beyond bubble baths, chocolate, and wine. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I am noticing that there are listeners from all over the world, many, many countries, and I feel really excited about that because every woman, and of course man, who prioritizes his or her own well-being results in a much calmer person in the midst of chaos. It is someone who is masterful with their emotions. It is someone who is willing to be vulnerable and authentic and have difficult conversations. It is someone who treats others with the utmost respect regardless of what kind of mood they're in. Can you imagine if we had a world filled with people like that? There would definitely be peace, among other fabulous things. So thank you for tuning in wherever you are listening from today. So I don't know if Mother's Day is a thing that gets celebrated, not a thing, a day that gets celebrated where you live, but here in Canada, Mother's Day is a big marketing opportunity, I guess. And also it is a day that causes a lot of stress for many women. So I wanted to address this Mother's Day self-care conundrum. We can get into a really challenging situation as mothers. So if you are a mother, I'm going to give you some strategies and solutions to make this Mother's Day coming up the best one ever. If you are not a mother, well, you'll get a mother's point of view, and I'm sure you have or have had a mother in your life, or you know mothers. And so this is useful for everyone. Now, several years ago, I remember discussing with a friend of mine after Mother's Day how our days went. And I had an amazing day because my husband had booked me an appointment at the spa with my favorite treatment, which is a Vichy shower. And if you've never had a shower lying down after a body wrap, oh my gosh, it is the absolute best. And I love doing that. And I had mentioned for many Christmases and birthdays and other occasions, the best gift anyone can give me is this spa treatment. I absolutely love it. So my husband had booked that in for me, and even better, he had booked another one the following month. It was absolutely amazing. So I was discussing this with my friend, and she said, "Oh, my Mother's Day just sucked. It was so stressful because there was all this stuff that I wished would have happened from my family, but my husband didn't take any measures to make it a great day at all. And then I spent most of the day feeling resentful and bitter." Well, she didn't say that, but that's what I interpreted. And then she also said how it was really stressful trying to do what she wanted to do and then balancing that with what she thought was expected of her from her mom, being the older sibling and planning a brunch and doing all these things that she thought were expected. See the conundrum? We want to practice self-care. We want to take care of ourselves, and it doesn't have to be the spa. That just happens to be something that makes me feel nourished at a really deep level because it's a physical act of prioritizing my own well-being. It can be whatever you want as long as it fills you up. And then on the other side, if you have a mom who is nearby in the same city as you, or even not, there is that necessity to honor her as well. So how can we do that? How do we do both the giving and the receiving? And so with my friend, our conversation was, she was really envious of my situation. And I wanted to let her know that it didn't happen by accident. It happened after many years of not having ideal Mother's Days, of prioritizing the other mothers in my life, grandmothers, and aunts, and my mom, and creating a lot of stress for myself by too much giving and not a whole lot of receiving. So I'm going to share with you how to, if you're in this conundrum, how to negotiate through that. What's important to notice here with this Mother's Day conundrum is it is not just happening on one day, right? How we do one thing is how we do everything. How you do anything is how you do everything. So if you have struggles on Mother's Day, it's just that it's compounded that day because of higher expectations. Happens around many holidays. Our expectations skyrocket. It's very hard to have them met, especially if we're trying to get people to read our minds, and it just doesn't work out the way that we thought. So this is kind of like real life. So this is not just useful for Mother's Day, although I do recommend that you implement what I'm going to share with you. It's good for every day. So here is what's kind of going on. With self-care, we want, as women, we are programmed, our hormones and our brains are all hardwired to nurture, to give of ourselves, to take care of others. And when we do that, it's supposed to make us feel really good. Unfortunately, if that is all we're doing, we're always taking care of others, we're kind of hiding. We're hiding from the stuff on the inside, which is what courageous self-care is all about. We're hiding from unresolved emotions. We're hiding from conflicts. We're hiding from asking for help, asking for what we need, clear communication. That will inevitably lead to burnout and exhaustion. It is very hard to manage all of that on top of everyone else's needs, right? So what we want is to be okay with receiving as well as with giving and nurturing. And so we can even turn that nurturing towards ourselves and ask, what is it that really fills me up? For so many of the clients I've worked with, when I ask that question, they kind of tear up and say, I used to know that. I used to know the answer to that question, but I don't anymore. I forget what fills me up. I've just focused on other people for so long, and I know it's my turn, but I don't know what I like to do anymore. I've completely lost myself. So sad. So that is not what I want for you. I want you to be able to give from a place of fullness, a place of overflow. And I have this demonstration I do when I give a talk on how to practice courageous self-care and the mistakes we tend to make as women when we are trying to learn the skill set of courageous self-care. And I do a demonstration with a glass of water and a pitcher. So a lot of women, like the jar starts empty. Can you envision that from where you are? The glass. Did I say glass? I don't know. The glass starts off empty. And that is where so many women try to give from, a place of emptiness. So of course we're going to be frazzled and snap at people and not feel like ourselves. We're totally exhausted. Then I pour a little bit of water into the glass from the pitcher and say, is this a better place to give from? But then pour some of it out. And you give a little to your community, you give a little to your family, you give a little to your career, you give a little to your volunteering. And pretty soon it's empty again. So that's not the time to give. Then I pour in water in the glass until it's completely full, just at the top edge. And that is the time that most women feel like it's a great time to give. Okay, I've done this for myself. I have prioritized my well-being. I've gotten a massage. I feel full. But then when you pour it out again, a little for you, a little for you, a little for you, a little for you, it empties again. So when is the best time to give? How can we give from this place of fullness? Well, what we want to learn actually is how to become the pitcher. And so that when it is pouring and pouring and pouring, the glass starts to overflow. And then it's easy to give and nurture because it's this constant overflow. We never have to deplete ourselves. The only way to do that, in my experience, is by practicing courageous self-care. Going within, practicing the strategic actions that I share regularly on this podcast. And what I want you to know is that self-care is not this vague idea, nor is it a list of things to do per se. It's not, okay, I'm going to pack my schedule full of meditation and yoga and learning how to eat vegan and getting massages and getting energy treatments. It's not that. There is this harmony that you want to find between internal and external self-care. So stuff we do for our bodies, that's the external, and then stuff we do for the inside of us, working through our beliefs, learning to master our emotions and honor them rather than suppress them. There are 12 different skill sets for courageous self-care, and each of them is part of the journey. So Mother's Day in a nutshell is a reflection of how we're living our lives. If you have a fantastic Mother's Day or have had them in the past, look at why that was. And if it's just a self-care free-for-all, or it's you just caring for your mom and the other moms in your life and you're not getting, or you end up feeling drained at the end of the day, then that's not what I want for you. Okay, so here is how I suggest solving the conundrum. Recently, I did an episode on the podcast called 3 Simple Steps to Move Through Fear. And in that, I shared a 3-step process. This 3-step process, I am writing a book right now, and in my book, it's called The Super Secret Self-Care Process. I don't know if it's going to stay that way, but that is the working title for this process. So I'm going to let you in on this super secret process. It is not just for moving through fear. It is a process for learning to implement courageous self-care. It's 3 steps. And if you listen to the last one, fantastic. I'm going to give it a different spin. So it's still worth listening to. And it's always worth listening to until you have mastered it. So, step 1 is get curious. We're going to apply this to Mother's Day specifically. I suggest that you get curious on what it is that you would like Mother's Day to be like this year. How do you want to feel? How do you want to be treated? What would the ideal Mother's Day be like for you? Would it be surrounded by your family? Would it be having your kids with you? Or maybe it's taking a day off. Maybe it is a little trip to the spa or a trip to the mountains or a trip to the ocean or a picnic, or what is it? Get curious about what that is for you. You don't need to use anyone else's suggestions. So this could take place in the form of journaling, writing down the answers. I suggest that you take some sort of physical action to get your thoughts out. So it might be speaking, it might be recording your ideas into a voice memo on your phone, or it might be using some pen and paper or typing it out. If this was going to be the best Mother's Day ever, what would it look like? Step 1, get curious. Moving right along. Step 2 is get connected. Once you have started brainstorming what this ideal Mother's Day looks like, it's important to connect to it emotionally by asking yourself, why is this important to me? Why do I want this? How come this is showing up for me? And so by asking yourself and digging a little bit deeper, You're going to reveal what's going on for you. Maybe you're not getting enough of something in your life right now. And so this vision of the ideal Mother's Day is really appealing because it's going to move you in a different direction energetically. Maybe it's going to shift relationships for you. What is it that you would really love? That's getting curious. And why? Why is that important to you? It's also important for you to know why, because it gives you a solid grounding in being able to ask for what you need in the next step. And also it's important to know the why, because if you're not getting enough of something in your life, it's because you're not giving it to yourself first. So if you feel like you need a whole lot more love and appreciation, it's up to you to start providing that to yourself first. Then you fill the void for yourself. You're not looking to other people to fill those empty holes for you. If you are feeling not important, then take some action again. Write down a list of why you are important in this world. Give yourself 5 examples. Who benefits from your contribution? So that is step 2. Get connected. Last step in the super secret self-care process, which is not going to be a secret anymore. Step 3. Get creating. Now, it's not get creative, different. Get creating. This is action-oriented, because if you want anything to change in your life, you need to show up differently. You got curious. What would the ideal Mother's Day look like? You got connected. Why is this important to me? How can I take some steps to filling those voids for myself? How can I cultivate some courage to ask for what I want? And in this step, get creating, that's what you're going to do. You are going to let other people know, if there are other people in your life, like your kids, your spouse, your mom, your extended family. You're going to let them know that you're working on this. And be vulnerable. Maybe it's uncomfortable for you. And you're going to take action on helping yourself experience this, whatever you dreamed up. So here are some examples of things that have worked for me in the past. Because like I said, I've had those Mother's Days where it's been all about all the other mothers in my family except for me, and that didn't feel good. So after that happened for several years, and I probably was in tears by the end of the day and feeling unappreciated and like I had to do everything and no one else was doing stuff. I'm sure that happened because that's where I used to live. After that, I started speaking my truth and saying, like when my husband asked, what would you like to do for Mother's Day? Or if he didn't ask, or if you have a husband who doesn't ask that kind of thing, bring it up. Hey, you know what? Mother's Day is coming up in a few weeks, and I've been thinking about it. This is what I would absolutely love to do. My ideal day would look like this. And this is important to me because that's the only reason my husband knew that I wanted to go to the spa, was because I had vocalized it on several occasions. And then I let my family know, I've got some options. Sometimes I have loved going to this amazing hotel in Banff in the mountains in Canada. It's like a castle. It's called the Banff Springs Hotel, and have had brunch there, and magnificent. So some years I've said that's what I would love to do. Other years I have said I would just absolutely love to go for a picnic and get the food from Sidewalk Citizen, which is one of my favorite places to get salads and croissant and amazing brownies and cookies. Maybe that's what we're going to do this year. I don't know. I'm salivating now. So letting other people know what it is that would make the day special for you. If it involves your kids giving you gifts, if it involves people writing nice things about you, if it involves people saying nice things about you, be courageous enough to ask for what you need, because you will feel so much better when it happens. And then the other thing I think that's important to understand is that it doesn't all have to be in one day. So a solution that we've done for several years is checking in with my family, my mom, and seeing what it is that she wants to do. And then me and my family, we take a different day unless there's something specific like the brunch in Banff, where it only happens on one day. But finding this place in between. It doesn't have to be only you, not me. It can be you and me. That and is so important. And then coming up with solutions on how to make that work. So finding out from the others in your life what their hopes and dreams are, and then expanding the experience. So it doesn't all have to happen on one day. How can it be a win-win for everyone? By doing those several things, those 3 steps in particular, get curious, get connected, and get creating, and then being open to finding win-win situations. The last few years, the Mother's Day experience has exceeded my expectations. And that is what I want for you too, because we all deserve to ask for what we want, to receive it with an open heart, and to feel good about ourselves while nurturing and being nourished. And that's one other thing I wanted to say is when you do get into the receiving mode, be okay with it. Don't put up barricades or brick walls, or if you do notice that you're getting what you want but you feel guilty about it, that's totally okay. No one in your family is a mind reader, so be clear about asking for what it is that you want, and then be open to receiving it in whatever form it shows up in. And that's the other thing. We've got to surrender control. It may not turn out like we had envisioned, but this is the process. It's not that we get perfection at the end. It is that it's who we become in along the way in this journey. So I invite you to really put this into practice. If you have had wonderful Mother's Days in the past, reflect on why. I suspect you've done something like this. Or if you have had those Mother Day conundrums where you have felt unappreciated and exhausted and drained, take this super secret self-care process into account and see how you can do something different. Because as Einstein says, it's so valuable to come back to this quote over and over. You cannot, well, I'm not going to say it exactly. I'm going to paraphrase. You cannot solve a problem with the same consciousness that created it. So if you expect different results by doing the same thing over and over, you're going to get the same results. What needs to happen to shift it is courage. You need to get uncomfortable. You need to ask for help. You need to open up to receiving. You need to look for win-wins. And it's all possible. So Mother's Day isn't for a while, but planning ahead is also important. And I am someone who vacillates between loving the drama of creating something in the last minute and also understanding that when we plan ahead, it gives so much ease and grace. So you can choose which kind of person you want to be. I have tried them both out. They both have their merits and their downfalls. But I do wish for you an amazing Mother's Day where you feel loved, honored, and appreciated. That's how we all deserve to feel. And I invite you to create this experience for yourself by giving yourself those attributes and those experiences and energies first. So you're not looking for this one day to fill up some sort of emptiness in you. I hope that this has been helpful. I love that you have been listening to the podcast, and I did want to offer you a resource. So there is the Courageous Self-Care, it's called the Self-Care Style Quiz. If you haven't taken that yet, I invite you to go to selfcarequiz.com and find out what your self-care style is. It's valuable to know that so that you can either be thrilled with the result or say, oh, this is where I could use some help and where I can see some opportunities for change. If you want to go deeper into the discussion and connect with other like-minded people and have access to all sorts of self-care experts and more personalized experience, I invite you to join the Courageous Self-Care Facebook community. The link is in the description. We would love to see you there. We've got people from all over the world who are sharing their wins, who are asking questions, who are learning more about how to practice courageous self-care. It's a wonderful place to be, and I would love to invite you to join us. All right. Happy Mother's Day. Thank you for listening. I look forward to connecting with you again next time. Bye-bye for now.